could slow down the 49ers and stop them from winning a Super Bowl? And do you think that this is a Super Bowl or bust year with how the rest of the NFL is looking right now? I mean, we just saw the Chiefs don't look very good. The Bills finally won, but they've had an up and down season. Joe Burrow's out. We still have yet to play the Ravens. The 49ers have dominated the NFC. Do you think it comes down to their own internal motivation, maybe emotional letdowns or whatnot, injuries? Speaking of emotional letdowns, Kyle, I feel like people try to say that stuff is bullshit, but Kyle, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, sorry, BS. Kyle, in his own press conference, said that he thought that the reason that they started slow was that they were burnt out from last week and that there was a bit of an emotional letdown.
Such a thing.
So this team is like a, for being all veterans, I mean, 90% veterans and stuff, they are very emotionally driven. It's kind of funny. Like, all you guys are paid. You shouldn't be relying on this, but it seems to have a big impact on them when they are, going all out with their effort and energy. They're really motivated. And when they're kind of taking it easy, it's almost like they expect to win or something.
Yeah. It's not just them. It happens to everyone in every sport, really. I mean, shoot, like we can even go to basketball. The Warriors, they get up for the Kings, but they're not going to get up the same way for like the Charlotte Hornets or something like that. That's not the same. Or the night, like this happened early in the season too. Niners got up for the for the Cowboys, blowout win, celebrate it. But it's even with the crashing down, like they say, Super Bowl hangover. That's like the week hangover. Like you got yourself up for this game. It meant something, and then you went to the Browns, which they didn't play necessarily a piss poor game, but that didn't look like the Niners we recognized too much, right? So that might have been like failure to get locked in. And then remember the videos like the Browns coming out copying the Niners intro, so they were hyped.
Yeah, so they were ready.
That matters. Like really, like getting yourself like into a mental space. Like think about like me and you go to the gym. If you're in the mental space to really want to work out, you have a better workout than forcing yourself, right? So like in anything in life. So this applies to it all. So that was huge. And the fact that he came out and said that, it's like, yeah, like we're not just making shit up. Like this is actually a thing. So luckily, like they're such a good team that they can come out of like a poor, I mean, not by their standards, I would say a poor first half by their standards, because it really wasn't a poor first half, that they can overcome it. And so you saw right there that they literally are the only reasons. They literally are one of the ones that will slow themselves down. It's not anything else, because I didn't come away from that game thinking, man, Seattle's doing all this to stop the 49ers from looking themselves. It's like, no, it kind of feels like the Niners are looking a little janky. And you could probably say that about all the three losses too. I mean, maybe the Browns, because the Browns had an elite defense and they still pretty much do. And the Bengals with Burrow were really clicking. But yeah, for the most part, you can say that about the losses too.
It does feel like when they lose, it's more of them not living up to their play standards, and maybe not like coming in with as much. Oh, you were talking about emotion, with as much emotion as they normally do, versus the other team finding out like a strategy to stop them. Like normally when you're watching, you're not like, oh, this defense is doing so good. You're kind of like, why is this offense not getting in a rhythm? Why are they not spreading the ball out? That type of thing.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, they had the Seahawks were in desperation mode. They still are. And they had 3 days rest. So the fact that you kind of took like their punch, they did punch you in the mouth. Drew Lock was actually pretty solid, surprisingly. And
at first, was it the touchdown pass or the pass to DK? That was pretty.
That was sick. Ambry Thomas had great coverage too. There's not at that point. It's just like, all right, man, good rep. You whooped me, but I'm gonna whoop you the rest of the game. That's what he did. That's what Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore did.
Do you think that not DK? Do you think that we'll get to him? Do you think that Geno would have done any better? I thought I didn't really notice. I feel like I've just been kind of unimpressed with Geno, but I felt like him and Drew Lock seemed comparable in yesterday's game. Like I feel like Geno would have played just as poorly or well,
Yeah, it feels like that's something they expect a lot of times from backups when they play their first two games, especially the first game. Like they'll always look good because there's no film, no one's really prepping for them. So backups having one game where they have to start like looking good is not uncommon. That's kind of why last year when Purdy came in and looked really good against the Dolphins, and then against the Bucks, I was still like kind of fading him. I was like, okay, he looked that good against the Bucks with blood on his face. He might be a fluke. And then he went on a short notice, hurt oblique, and still looked impressive against the Seahawks. That's when I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not doubting him anymore. So same, but at least with Locke, it's like, okay, we kind of know what you are. Like even when Jake Browning, like okay, wow, Jake Browning's actually might be actually decent. Like, whoa, what the hell's going on with Cincinnati? So,
but yeah, even with him, I want to give him more time because that kind of happened with Josh Dobbs, right? There was like he had like 3 games where you were like, "Oh, okay, he looks really
Yeah.
good," and then he
I'm not
like
crowning Brownie or nothing. It's just like, wow, okay, well, that's okay. I did not see this coming. I thought the Bengals are dead in the water. Now they might actually make the playoffs, but I digress. So yeah, it's just like it's like you took Seattle's best punch with that, and you still just came out prevailing. I mean, now you're going to face a very lowly Arizona Cardinals team, which Kyler Murray is going to be a force. You're going to face a massive upgrade there, and he always gives you problems. But I think that's going to be a great warm up, right? Because then after that game, you got to face Monday night at home against the Baltimore Ravens. So that's a great warm up. And speaking of like days rest, the Cardinals are coming off a bye week, but they just feel very talented, depleted. Because who the hell is Kyler Murray throwing to? Like he's got a good tight end, and Marquise Brown's hurt. He hasn't been much, so it's just it's about the 49ers themselves. Don't play down to your opponent because our Cardinals are such an easy team that you can just be like. Cardinals? Like, come on, dude. Come on, man. Like, who's going to take them seriously? And as fans, you shouldn't, but that team needs to. Like, they need to lock in because that's a divisional game. Like I said, things get weird. And because of that, that might just, maybe the Cardinals feel fired up to come out. Divisional game, they want to win. You just never know. There's no way I see the 49ers losing, but this could be, again, another thing where it's like, okay, it's kind of sloppy and you pull away, look good for the end.
And you also want them to play a good game because you hope that like that'll help minimize injuries. The more sloppy you kind of feel like then they have to start to press to kind of come back. And where if they just play a solid game out the start, then you think maybe Kyle Shanahan starts sitting his starters in that fourth quarter if they leave no doubt. Versus when they do get behind, I feel like there's more opportunity for injuries because people are pressing more. And I think what's going to be most important going into the Super Bowl is trying to, and this is for every team. I don't even know how you really like try to do this, but hoping for no major injuries. Although they've done really good with their backups that have subbed in. It looked like the loss of Charvarius Ward was going to be a huge deal when he first went out, but then Lenore and Ambry really did step up. I didn't really notice Oliver, but I didn't notice him doing poorly either, which I think is good. So I think if I was going to say what would slow down the 49ers, it would be some sort of injury thing or like a mental off switch, which it doesn't seem like this team is going to have now. It seems like once these games start, they can kind of stay up for them. I think they have that mental lull in like November.
Off the top of my head, has Brock Purdy thrown a pick since the bye week? No, huh?
He threw a pick yesterday. Remember?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one.
But that was on Ayuk.
That one was a janky one. Yeah, I was being a little mean. I was blaming that on him, but I was like, okay, yeah, it's a lead, but it's fun to rile people up. They get all mad. They go, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's like, geez. So it's fun to piss people off.
I saw Richmond Judd, who I know he like knows the routes and everything really well, and he said that was on Purdy. But if you just looked at the sideline, it looked like Kyle Shanahan was screaming at Ayuk.
Yeah, unless he gets asked it, which I don't know if Kyle was asked it. Maybe he was asked it yesterday.
I didn't hear him ask it, and I bet that even if he was, I don't think he'd be like, "Oh, this is whose fault it was." He would probably just say it was miscommunication.
No, Kyle has been known to do that in the past, but I don't know. It's just whatever. The point is like that's one where ultimately I'll just chalk it up as an asterisk because it was weird. Like whether if it was a sit route and he was supposed to deliver on him, whoever's fault, like that was just weird. So I was like, fine, like I guess we'll never be able to fully truly confirm it. So I'll just say that as a weird one. But aside from that, like in terms of like bad ones, like no, like it's just they're all clicking. It's crazy. Yesterday they had 3 players go over 100 receiving yards, and Purdy was nearly 400 yards. I mean, shoot, that is just insane. Like you had Purdy was looking amazing. Debo went off again. Kittle played a fat role. Ayuk, it's just